Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you've seen the review of our projects, today we are going to look at the first part, which is where we will containerize our application into a Docker image. So a few things to take note of. I'm going to create a Dockerfile and I'll use a Node 18 Alpine base image. Then we'll create a working directory, copy project files, install dependencies, define a CMD to start the application, and then we go on from there to build and run the Docker image and expose it on port 3000. So I'm following these two steps, step 1 and step 2, to write my Dockerfile. Let's go back to our code. By the way, I have an Ubuntu instance here. Before we even go to the code, I'll copy my IP address and I'll connect to it via SSH from my local host. My key pair is this, the user is Ubuntu. So we are in the Ubuntu server. By the way, Docker is already installed, and if you want to check whether Docker is running or not, systemctl status Docker. So Docker is already running. So you have a few directories here already. You'll find the code in the Docker NodeJS to do app on the icons GitHub repository. If you go to the repository itself, go to the code and copy this link, HTTPS link, and I'm gonna do a git clone. Press enter, and that should download the repository right there. Let's cd into it. Let's see the contents. So we have a Dockerfile, a README, package.json, spec, source code, src, and yarn.log. Alright, now our main focus for this part is to build a Docker image. The main thing to look at is a Dockerfile. Of course, there's a Dockerfile here, but it's empty. If you cut Dockerfile, there's nothing in there, so it's empty. So we are going to edit this file to build our application. So to build a basic Dockerfile for this Node.js application, first define a syntax for your Dockerfile in version 1. So some keywords, Node 18 Alpine as our base image. You need to specify a work directory. We will call that app. Then we need to copy contents from our local directory into the container, and then we run some shell commands. So yarn install, we call this production. Then you define commands to start our application. Our application is in source code index.js, and then of course we are exposing it on port 3000. So this here is a very simple Dockerfile, but we don't want to just build any Docker image. We want a Docker image that is lightweight and a Docker image that is built in a very short period. So to optimize this basic Dockerfile here, I'm going to apply two techniques. One is caching layers and the other one is multi-stage build. And so to do that, instead of just one stage, you see from, only one from command that you see right here, that implies this is a single stage Dockerfile. I'll create another stage. I'm going to use the Alpine image, and then for the first stage, I'll label it as build stage. When we clone the repository, we had all this stuff in there: spec, src, readme, package.json, yarn.log. Now when you see this copy ... that basically means that copy all of this into our Docker image, so that when the container starts running, all these are already copied in there. But to reduce the workload here, some of the things in this directory are not needed at the build stage. So we have a build stage here. We don't need some of them. So the ones that we need is what we are going to copy. So we are not going to copy everything. We will copy just the package.json and yarn.log. And I'm copying it to our current directory. We need this for the build phase, so we need them copied. Everything else can wait till the next stage. And then I will install the dependencies. And then later, I'll copy the source code into our current directory under source code. I'll do the same for spec into our current directory spec. So that is for the build stage. Next, use 18 Alpine still as a multi-stage image to continue from where we started off in the first stage. And then now I'm going to copy whatever is coming out of the first build stage. So this will be copy from, and the build stage we call it build. This is a name for that stage. I'll copy everything from our app. Remember the working directory is app, to the same app directory on our container. And then we will use node source code index.js and expose it on port 3000. So this is our Dockerfile. So I forgot one command. When you are building a multi-stage Dockerfile, normally on the next stage you need to specify your working directory again. All right, when you save this, all right, so this is our final Docker file. When we build our Docker image, we're gonna use docker build -t, and we are calling our app to do app, and then we are building the Docker file inside this current directory. So dot. Okay, so that's successful. Create the screen, do Docker images. You should see our application right there. Now let's run our container using this Docker image. So we're gonna run docker run in detached mode, and we are specifying the port 3000.3000. This is mapping the port 3000 from the local host to port 3000 of the container. Don't forget we are on the EC2 instance, that's our local host. And so for that, you need to make sure that if you go to the security group of our instance, port 3000 is allowed for NodeJS. Okay, and then you give it an image name, calling it to do app, and then you press enter. So it started running. So to see the process, you do docker ps, and this is our container running. Okay, how can you be sure that the container is actually running correctly? You can go back to your EC2 instance, copy your IP address, then paste it in your browser with the port number 3000, and you should see the application come up. Alright, so I'm gonna enter a few things. So it's today's item, tomorrow's item, current item, etc. Okay, you can enter so many things. Alright, and that will add it to your application. So application is correctly working. Now, even though this our application is working currently, if I stop my container, this is the container image ID. If I stop it, okay, I've stopped it. So if I refresh this, it's not working anymore. Now let me start it back up by running the container again, because remember, if you do docker ps, see that the container is gone, it's not working anymore. So run the container again, and now it's running. All right, docker ps will show you the container running. So let's refresh our page. See that all the items that we entered earlier are gone. So that's the reason why we are gonna do part 2 for this. We need the data that we enter in here to persist. You want it to be saved in our database, which is MySQL. So I'm just gonna stop this here for the part 1 of this project. So in part 2, we are gonna look at how to persist the data that we input into our application by attaching the MySQL container to our to-do app container. So I will see you on the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.